What's up, everybody? It's Legal Tender. Back in the building, back in the vault. Put out a couple of notes to make a new video. Okay. I want to thank everybody for the love and support on the channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it. Got a whole lot of likes, so let's keep that going. Every week I will be making a new episode speaking about something different regarding numismatics or paper currency. Numismatics and paper currency. So on this episode, I will be speaking about obligations. So the obligation on a note is it's right here. It's the wording that's on the note. And throughout the years, the obligation has changed based on the currency, and it just evolved, period, throughout the progression of the financial institution and a whole bunch of other stuff. So we'll get into that and throughout this episode. All right. So first thing, I want to ask, what is an obligation? All right. So the book definition of an obligation is an act or course of action to which a person is morally or legally bound, a duty or commitment. So that's what an obligation is. And throughout this video, you'll see how the obligations change based on the currency. And I'll be speaking on currencies or different types of currencies and different notes within said currency. So getting into obligations. An obligation, they come on all paper currency, all U.S. currency. And look at it like a contract that the government had issued and placed on said note. And this obligation on this note reads, this certifies that there has been deposited in the Treasury of the United States of America $1 silver payable to the bearer on demand. This certificate is receivable for all public dues, and when so received, may be reissued. All right, so the obligation on this note, it states that there has been X amount of silver coins or raw bullion deposited into the treasury, and it is payable to the bearer of this note on demand. So the only thing you had to do, you just went to the treasury and said, I want whatever the dollar value was for the note. I want this dollar value. I'm trading in this certificate, dollar value of this for X amount of silver coins, raw bullion. If you had a gold certificate, you could change it in for gold. So the person that received this note, they have a moral and legal commitment to honor that commitment. That's why they are called obligations. Some people call these debt clauses, but I just know them as obligations. So expect to hear me say obligations throughout this episode quite a few times. So yeah, so that is the obligation for this horse blanket series 1923. Now on the next silver certificate, that's when the treasury decided to reduce the size of the notes to its modern day size. And as you see, the notes got reduced in size in the year 1929, but issued out in series 1928. So we got a 1928 series silver certificate, and it reads that this certifies that there has been deposited in the Treasury of the United States of America $1 silver payable to the bearer on demand. The certificate is receivable for all public dues, and when so received, may be reissued. Same as the obligation on a horse blanket. The obligation remained the same. The image remained the same. The only thing that changed was the size, and that was just to save paper and ink. So they kept the same vignette, they kept the same obligation. So though, like I said, the only thing that changed was the overall size of it. And going back to the horse blanket, it states that the certificate is receivable for all public dues, and when so received may be reissued. So you could receive this note to settle a debt, and if you incurred the debt, you could also reissue it to settle the debt that you just incurred with that individual. So that is the 1928 series. There was a change on the next note that came out, the next series, and that is all silver certificates. And that was a series of 1934. Top pretty much saying this certifies that there is on deposit in the Treasury of the United States of America $1 in silver payable to the bearer on demand. The only thing that changed in regards to the obligation is this right here to the side. This reads that this certificate is legal tender for all debts public and private. Now you see the changes from the wording on this note and the wording on this note. So the reason that it changed, I would surmise, is because with America still growing as a young nation, a nation filled with innovators, entrepreneurs, and smart people, it is kind of implied that you can receive this note and it can be reissued to settle a debt, public or private. So that is why that obligation changed, because it's implied that you can receive it and reissue it to settle a debt. So again, to save on ink, it's one of them things that's just kind of like implied. So those are the changes for the 1934 series. There was another change on the series of 1963 Series B. I don't have that note, but it's one that I would add to the collection. But the obligation on that note reads, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Now we see on this 1934 series, it says this certificate. On the 1963 Series B, it reads, this note's legal tender for all debts. So they went from calling silver certificates this type of currency. They went from calling it certificates to notes. And that was a trend that was put out through all currency, legal tenders, Federal Reserve notes, and so on and so forth. So those are the obligations for the silver certificates. The next currency is United States notes, legal tenders. All right, so up top, United States notes, and we'll do a little comparison and contrast between silver certificates, Federal Reserve notes, and these legal tenders. All right, so it reads, the United States of America will pay to the bearer on demand $2. This note is a legal tender at its face value for all debts, public and private. And this was series of 1928G. They made the first obligation on the 1928 series, but I don't have a 28. The closest I have to that date is 1928G. And some of the quick differences between legal tenders and silver certificates is, on this United States note, it doesn't say anything about silver being paid to the bearer on demand. It only states that this note is legal tender at its face value. The United States will pay to the bearer on demand $2. nothing in silver. So you're not getting any silver for this note or gold. You only get face value. So that's what we got for this series. And some differences in regards to legal tenders, in regards to civil certificates. So the next note, going back a little bit. All right, so series year of 1928. As we see, the top is a little different from the previous note. And it states that we'll pay to the bearer on demand $1. This note is a legal tender at its face value for all debts public and private, except duties on imports and interest on the public debt. Okay, so fun fact about this note right here. This red seal $1 bill. These notes were printed and shipped to Puerto Rico explicitly. And they were shipped over there to bolster the economy of Puerto Rico. With Puerto Rico being a territory of the United States, they just wanted to build up their economy. So they printed these notes and they was like exclusively shipped to Puerto Rico. And going back to that obligation, it reads that, face value, all debts public and private, except duties on imports and interest on the public debt. Like I said, I don't like to do assumptions, but I would surmise with a little deductive reasoning that this was put in place because Puerto Rico is an island with a lot of import and export tariffs and so on and so forth. So I believe this is why that was put there, because on import and export, this bill may actually lose value in regards to the imports, because it states right there, it's face value except duties, taxes on imports and interest on the public debt. So that's a little interesting fun fact about this $1 red seal, printed and shipped only to Puerto Rico. So it was real hard finding this note, but I'm glad I got inside the collection. All right, moving on to the next series year in regards to legal tender. We have a 1953 series. United States note up top. United States of America will pay to the bearer on demand $2. This note is legal tender at its face value for all debts public and private. Okay, so going back to the 1928 series, the obligation. The obligation is the same, just the design of the note is different. So that's what we got for our United States legal tender notes. All right, so the next one we got up, we have a Federal Reserve note. The obligations came into play with the Federal Reserve notes on series 1934. I do not have a 1934 series. I will be using as visual aid this 2013 series. But the obligation on the 1934 note reads, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private, and is redeemable in lawful money at the United States Treasury or at any Federal Reserve Bank. Then that obligation was changed again in 1963, Series B. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. So you'll see with this 2013 series, the obligation didn't change at all from 1963, Series B, until 2013. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. So the obligation didn't change much. But star note. All right, next we got gold certificates. Voila. Gold certificates are pretty much just like the silver. The Treasury building already had X amount of precious metal in regards to the amount set to the side at a Treasury. So you could go there and redeem this certificate for the face value of the note for X amount of gold coins or silver coins if you had a silver certificate. And this obligation reads, this certifies that there have been deposited in the Treasury of the United States of America $10 in gold coin payable to the bearer on demand. This certificate is a legal tender in the amount thereof in payment of all debts and dues, public and private. So, like I said, the Treasury Department already had X amount of precious metals set to the side with the dollar amount tied to it. And these certificates you could go to a Treasury and have them redeemed for that face value for gold or silver if you had a silver certificate. And this obligation came into play series 1928. Gold certificates. All right, so the next one going to be interesting. All right, so we done talked silver certificates, legal tenders, Federal Reserve notes, gold notes. Now let's talk in regards to currency. National currency. Okay, so with these notes right here, national currency secured by the United States bonds deposited with the treasurer of the United States of America, $10. And with this being a national currency, Citibank of New York will pay to the bearer on demand $10. Redeemable in lawful money of the United States at United States Treasury or at the bank of issue. The bank of issue would be the National City Bank of New York with the charter number of 1461. 1461 right there. So the obligation on this note states that there has been secured by the United States bonds deposited with the treasurer of the United States of America. So you could take this note and get it redeemed in bonds, national bonds, at a treasury or the bank of issue. And then the City Bank of New York will honor that obligation. So on the next note, it's all in the wording. Check out the wording. So that's this national currency. Another national currency, but it's a different type of national currency. As we get into it, it reads, all right, so national currency secured by United States bonds deposited with the treasurer of the United States of America or by like deposit of other securities. By other securities, I would assume that they mean other financial institutions like another bank, another national bank. The Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago will pay to the bearer on demand $20. And we see here, redeemable in lawful money of the United States at United States Treasury or at the bank of issue. The bank of issue being the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago or at a treasury. You can go and get bonds or $10 $20 in paper currency. But if you already got this right here, I don't see the point. So you'll probably exchange it for bonds. But the thing that's a trick is that it says or by like deposit of other securities, other financial institutions. So you could take this national currency, Federal Reserve Bank is guaranteed to be endorsed by the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, but you could also take it to other securities, which would be a national city bank, and they will honor this obligation as well. That's pretty interesting. So these are the national currencies. And you also recall on both notes that it says that redeemable and lawful money. I'll break the lawful money part down in a second. So I done spoke about currencies in regards to national currency, gold certificates, silver certificates, legal tenders, United States notes, Federal Reserve notes. But there are notes within those types of currencies. And we got these two notes right here. Emergency currency. This is a this is a North African note. And this is a Hawaii note. But they both fall under the umbrella of silver certificates. So they are currency or silver certificates but emergency notes. And they have obligations as well. Okay, so silver certificate, this certifies that there is on deposit in the Treasury of the United States of America. $1 is payable to the bearer on demand. This certificate is legal tender for all debts public and private. So this is the Hawaii note, the obligation, silver certificate. And for the North African note, reads the same, certifies that there is on deposit in the Treasury of the United States of America, $10, and silver payable to the bearer on demand. This certificate is legal tender for all debts public and private. This is a series of 1934A, and the Hawaii note is a series 1935A. Silver certificates, emergency notes, and the obligations on both. So over the years, you've seen the progression and change of the obligation based on currency type and just the overall. It could be the same currency, but like throughout the years, the standards had done change, just the overall natural progression and just America growing into a financial powerhouse and just changing with the gold standard being done away with, the Fourth Coinage Act in regards to silver. So those obligations were changed on the notes to match the times and like that, things like that. All right, so like I said, I was going to speak about lawful money. So you would think this is all lawful money, but from what I read in the book definition, lawful money is any form of currency issued by the United States Treasury and not the Federal Reserve System. It includes gold and silver coins, Treasury notes, and Treasury bonds. So going back to this national currency right here, redeemable and lawful money of the United States at the United States Treasury. And lawful money is currency that was issued by the Treasury and not the Federal Reserve System. It includes gold, silver, Treasury notes, and Treasury bonds. So that's what lawful money is. I got another episode in the future breaking down lawful money, fiat money, things like that. So Real interesting, the information that I looked up on it. But okay, that's all we got for this one. Thank you for the support. Keep rocking with me, man. More likes, more subscriptions. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's all we got. Till next time, keep it legal, keep it tender. Talk to you soon.